Sup, nerds? Today we're going to be looking at a really degenerate lizard strategy that works very well against melee factions without a lot of ranged counterfire, like the vampire counts. And this is Sally Pack Kite. When it works, it is just completely devastating. So the idea is we take Sally hunting packs, which are one of my favorite units. It's this very fast anti-large range unit that also has explosive damage. So they're almost like portable high DPS guns because the explosive damage makes it so that they do good damage against non-large targets like infantry. So they can damage most things, but the downside is they're just like incredibly glass cannon. They don't have a lot of health, and they also have fire damage. So against certain factions like VC, where a lot of their best units are weak to fire, they just have this like completely out of control DPS. And they also have a lot of ammo, so they'll kind of just keep shooting forever. This is one of those units that can get like 2k value if your opponent lets it. But costs 850, has 4100 health, so don't get it killed. It's one of the most fragile units in the game on a price to effective health basis. So the way this strategy looks, we have some skink skirmishers, which are one of the best units on the lizard roster. They have a lot of models, they have poison, they're fast, so they're just like a good screening tool. They do pretty good poke damage on their own, but they also complement other tools because they slow them down and they give you like some bodies to get between you and their cav. We have a backbone of a bunch of Saurus Spears and one Temple Guard for its Guardian effect to sit by the Lord. And we've got a Final Trans Frog, which has, this spell, big AoE spell, kills characters well, and then it's hopped up by Greater Arcane Conduit that the Slan has. This isn't like a common lord choice, but it's very, very good, and specifically the situation where you're fighting like a melee blob. And this kind of general approach is pretty good into like Nurgle type factions, VC, really anything that doesn't have tools like Slanesh has, like Pavane, to catch you. We're playing against Saul. Saul's an ODM player. He's a very skilled land battler, kind of newer to Domination. And these these videos are not to show close games. We're trying to show you how to execute the strategy when it works. So you're not going to see a close game here. So he's taken Manfred. I think he's been suspecting things like this. He has Buna, so we'll show you how to play through that. He's got some Vargulfs, which will outduel most SEs, and then like kind of an anemic slow push on the line. So what you're going to want to do is space out your spears to contest 1 or 2 points. You're mostly winning on damage, but you want to have enough point contest that you don't get like overwhelmed. And then basically just push right away, and then find a good target priority for the Sally packs and just start tearing into it. In this case, he overextends his lord a little bit. So that's one cool thing about the skink skirms, because they have so many models, they can really damage a lot of unit types. And if you're him, I might not screen with such an expensive unit. So this really illustrates what the Sally packs can do. He holds still for just like a second to get a Buna off, and then we get really good damage. We're like, boom, like 800. What a really important tactic here against playing against Buna. When they Buna you, you can use the Slan's abilities to counter the Buna. So you pop Field of the Old Ones, which provides a leadership buff and ward save, and you pop Cold Blooded, which provides a leadership buff. So the unit that got hit won't spike damage route, and it doesn't actually prevent all the damage, but it on Sally packs it prevents them from losing many models, if any. And then the unit that's been hit by the Buna can kind of just back off and do its thing. So when you're kiting, you want to mind where your backline is, because these kinds of there's full kite builds where you go like all Sally packs and Cav. Semi kite works better in Dom because you need to contest. So that's where your plan is not to just like kite them forever. It's to kite for a while and get some damage and then take a fight in an advantageous location. So you want to plan out where that's going to be. Usually it's like on your safe point. If there's a terrain advantage, so like this map has like a small hill, you can scout that out before, and you get damage firing downhill, and they have vigor debuffs and melee debuffs going up. So it's pretty advantageous. So our game plan was to, run up with the kite units, poke him with this stuff, and then slow walk back to here. But sometimes your kite hits them so hard that you don't actually have to do that because they just die. Which this is a decent illustration of. So, he's kind of trying to dodge. The Buna largely did nothing. It was ineffective. And so now we're just picking him apart. Like there's just nothing he can really do here because he doesn't have anything to catch 3 Sally packs. You can counter screen, like if your Sally packs are in a good DPS position, you can use your light cav, like feral cold ones, to tap and hold. Um, and then they can like get out before they grind into a bad space. So that's mostly their role, is to allow these suckers to keep shooting. Here I have like a small tactical error because I have bloodlust for Manfred, which is you want to ideally space your skirm elements so that like one zombie summon or one unit can't hit all of them. So it would be better to be like spaced out like this and picking good targets. But he let me walk the Slan up into final trans range, so I was kind of scrambling to get the Lord pick. If you're him, don't take the Lord this close to the Kite elements. I love this, folks. This is what I live for. Just oppressive, one-sided blowouts. It just source of joy. So yeah, you can see the Slan. The Slan's good for a reason. It gets to do a whole bunch of high damage final trans. The Kite elements do a good job. So he's dead. Game over. GG. But were it closer, like were he to have a cheaper Lord or not to have it got it final trans, we probably wouldn't take the fight here. We were pushing up because we needed to screen for these elements while they picked off his Lord because he was overextended. But if he didn't make that mistake, we would have just kept backing up into the fight spot like we talked about. So spread out your Kite elements, summon cavalry to match their cav. And, here I make a minor tactical error. Like I have this Cold One Spear doing a good job on the front line, and I see this coming. I'm sending in counter cav. But it's really important to prioritize keeping your Sally packs up because they'll kill their entire army pretty comfortably. So I should have pulled this cavalry off to intercept, but that's okay. And you can kind of see here the role the Skink Skirms play. They're cheap. So if they're around the Sally packs, a lot of the time they're absorbing the initial damage instead of the Sally packs. And like you don't want the cav fight with these, but their effective health to gold ratio is very high, actually. Like they've got armor, they've got a pretty spread out formation. So they're a really good buffer because they slow. And combined with cold ones and feral cold ones, is really hard to stay on ranged assets. So we've killed most of his stuff. He's conceded. That gives you like the gist of the game plan when it works well. Let's take a quick look at the gold values on things. So the Slan did very well. It was going to be casting more final trans. The front line did its job. It held. The Skink Skirms did phenomenally because they're a very good unit, and the Sally packs just crushed. They were like full health. They've got ammo. Nothing's contesting them, and all of these would have done 2K if there was like more stuff to shoot, but there wasn't because we killed it. And the VC did nothing. So that's like your level 1 Sally pack Kite. You can try it out. I would advise against it when they have arty. Like, so you don't want to do this against like Empire type factions. It's really good against factions that have basically no shooting. You can also kind of mix it in. Like you can have a reinforcement Sally pack. They're so fast that they make a really nice singleton. So like in some matchups like Norska, you can like run 2, even though they have counterfire, and bring them in a good situation. That's pretty much it. This is a very fun build type. Thanks for watching. Try it out. Let me know how it goes.